on to week 2, and we just talked about how the Florida State LSU game might not derail the season necessarily. Talk about a game that can derail a season for one team. I give you Texas A&M at Miami, week 2, 3:30 kick Eastern Standard Time on the American Broadcasting Company's network. Um, this game is going to depress one fan base something severe, right? You've got Texas A&M and
Yeah.
Miami both coming off clunkers of a season. Both teams had a lot of preseason hype going in. Now, A&M a little bit more hype. They were a dark horse playoff contender. If you listen to a lot of talking heads, Miami, it was their first year under Mario Cristobal. They were supposed to win 8, 9, maybe 10 games, compete for an ACC title. Neither of those things happened. They both missed bowl games. They both go 5-7. They both had embarrassing losses to group of 5 teams. Coming into 2023, both teams have kicked out their offensive coordinators in favor of more dynamic setups. This is going to favor, I believe, the team that can play better defense. I think both teams should take a nice step forward offensively, although to me, there are more questions on Miami's side of things. What is Tyler Van Dyke? He had this nickname, Tyler Van Dyme, and then last year he was dreadful. Didn't have anybody to protect him in the pocket, but he was still really, really bad. What does Miami's offense look like going forward into this season is the big question for me. And I can't wait to see these two teams line up against each other. It's not going to be the raucous atmosphere that it was in College Station, but it should still be a very, very good game to kick off our Saturday week 2.
Yeah, speaking of games that were not aesthetically pleasing last year, 17-8 or 17-9 in College Station was not gonna be one to write home about last year, and it was a defensive struggle. You nailed it. Both offenses really struggled, especially out of the gate last year, to really get anything going. And both of them are going to be looking for answers this year. They're going to be looking for a lot of validation in their offensive coordinator hires in week 2, as both of them, get cupcakes week 1, the first big test of a Power 5 game for both of these programs. And, a lot of eyes are going to be on this quarterback matchup as well. Connor Wegman got a lot of praise for what he did as a freshman down the stretch last year. I think rightfully so. He looked like he stabilized the offense a little bit, but this is going to be more and more his team going into year 2 in his first full year as a starter. So Tyler Van Dyke, man, I don't know what the temperature is in that Miami locker room on him. I can't imagine it's confident going into this year, but he is the best guy they have. And for them to be where they think Miami should be, Van Dyke is going to have to do a lot more to put the team on his shoulders this year.
Yeah, he really has to return to form if they're going to figure this out. This one for me is just a complete guess. I have no idea which direction this game is going to go. I think the big factor last year, and when I try to break this one down, I look at the fact that I think A&M has solved more of their problems from last year than Miami has. When you look at matching this one up similar to last year, you got to remember this was the first of the freshman suspension games that A&M had. They had a few of those last season where freshmen just weren't following team rules and they weren't available for certain games. And A&M ended up being without, I think, their best receiving target, Nevin Stewart, in that game. And so that may have contributed to some of the lack of offensive output, though I don't necessarily think I'm going to put that entirely on Evan Stewart not being there. But when you look at everything, you're saying, okay, well, since then, A&M has a different quarterback than played in that game. And he performed better at the end of last season than the quarterbacks had leading up to that point. You also have to take in the fact that I think the issue with Miami in the previous iteration of this game was the fact that they were playing at Kyle Field, which I think probably ended up winning the game for A&M, just in terms of how loud and raucous that crowd ended up getting. It probably ended up winning the game for them. I don't think Miami is going to have that same favorability in this. They don't really turn out great home crowds, and you can hate me for it if you want to, Miami fans, but go fill up the Dolphins Stadium before I'm going to call it yours, because you don't typically travel very well or put many fans in your stadium. So
could be more A&M fans at this game than Miami fans.
There's a chance, yeah. I mean, you're telling all those Texas people they get to travel to Miami, they'll they'll take their trip. And so I don't know, man. I just don't think they're going to have the same home field advantage in this one. They still have quarterback questions with Tyler Van Dyke. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe this goes Miami's way. I don't see it necessarily going Miami's way. But this is the same thing with A&M as it was last year. You might expect a whole lot out of them, and then they just crap the bed and they just don't show up. So it'll be fun to watch, but it will crush one of the two fan bases and send them spiraling going into week 3.
Texas A&M has nothing to fear other than fear itself. And Jimbo bringing out his 37 play sheets like that.
Yeah.
That's what boils down to a successful season or not. Like, is Bobby Petrino allowed to cook with a dynamic quarterback and a whole lot of fun skill position players, or does Jimbo start filing his taxes again
Well,
on the sideline? Like, that's it to me. The defense is going to play well. We know that. They've been so electric over the last couple of years, other than run defense last year, which was leakier than a cheap faucet. But maybe get out of 3-man fronts and suddenly you can defend the run. Yeah, Miami doesn't have any home field atmosphere, at least not right now.
none.
So I think it's not going to be as cool of an environment as it was last year, but it should still be a really fun game, and that I'm looking forward to.
Gracious, how about